Hello, so this is a video on graphic design, more specifically, the process of graphic design for MVRT. So you might be thinking, what is the difference between art and design? The elements of both are largely the same, but they just have different names. So many people might ask this question, and there are many answers. But to MVRT, art is for the artist, and design is for the audience. And that is a key difference. So MVRT is more concerned with design than art, so you don't have to worry so much about the former, worry about the latter. When you make designs, the viewer always comes first before the designer, so keep that in mind throughout the entire process. So here is the process: connecting, researching, designing, presenting, revising, and finally delivering. Connecting and researching are quite closely intertwined, but not so much as designing, presenting, and revising. I'll call these three the while loop because it's pretty similar to like a while loop in coding. While the director of marketing and the VP of operations are not satisfied, you'd have to keep revising. And once they are satisfied or the deadline hits, then that's when you can deliver. So the first step is connecting. Who are you making this project for? Connect with who you're making this project for. Let's say, for example, MVRT has an interest meeting coming up in 3 weeks, and your director of marketing comes to you and asks for a profile picture in order to promote this event. You would work out with them a clear schedule. What do you need to accomplish? What are the milestones? And when are these milestones due? So you have to work out exactly figure out what you get from them, what you have to give to them, and when you would have to give this to them. So let's say, for example, since the event is in 3 weeks, everything has to be done by the end of the second week in order for 1 week of promotion to occur. And you can say, let's say, for example, on Thursday of the first week, you would give the director of marketing a paper draft. On Sunday evening, you would give them a digital draft, and then the next week, you would work together every day. Like you would check in with them on your progress, and they'll give some feedback. You make the necessary revisions, and then finally, on the end of the second week, you would have a final product to deliver. That is just an example, of course. Use what works best for yourself. Secondly is the research. What is this event or topic about, and what are the defining features of this event or topic? So this information you can mostly get from the person who requested the design, and also who's your target audience. This you can also get from them, but you can also think of it by yourself. So for example, back then in the information meeting example, the target audience would be the students at Monte Vista High School, high schoolers. So it change the design to cater towards them. And then you have to make a must, should, or can list. This is something that I feel will be really helpful. I will give an example later on. And the third step is designing, presenting, and revising, the while loop from before. It's a long process here. It's very repetitive, but it's also very interesting. Firstly, you have to draw a bunch of ideas, lots of them on paper. Since drawing on paper is a lot easier than drawing on the computer, but of course, if you happen to be special, you can try doing everything on digitally, but I prefer on paper. Then you get feedback because you should get the big direction approved first, because you don't want to spend like hours on Photoshop making some project that is flawed from the start. Then later on, after you get the feedback, after it's approved, you can start making the project. You can use Photoshop, GIMP, Canva, Figma, anything that you believe is good for yourself. You can even use Google Slides. That is a pretty interesting tool that actually works. And then you would get feedback, revise, get some opinions from different people, officer, friends, teammates, because design is for the audience. You should get some feedback from the audience members. And this process will take a lot longer than you think, because you have to go back, make edits, get feedback, make edits over and over again until it's finally approved. So here's an example. At the 2019 Symposium, it's officially called the Diversity in STEM Symposium. It's an annual event to promote gender diversity in STEM where hundreds of people come together to the student union. It's hosted by MVRT. And then we invite some successful women in STEM. And the big idea is to promote female empowerment. So it should have a powerful mood. So yeah, here's an example of a must, should, or can list. it must have the team name, it must have the team number, it must have the location, date, and time. Without some of these key information points, this profile picture will not make much sense. Some things you should include: graphics, past pictures, why you attend, the bullet description, but these are more for a flyer sort of design rather than a profile picture since they're too detailed. And then finally, the CAN, history, testimonials, QR code. Those can or cannot, if they're included or not included, doesn't really make much of a difference. So yeah, this is just an example. Of course, edit this to fit your own design. And so yeah, now let's move on to the some images of the drafts. So this is the very first draft. Oh, by the way, I did not have any pictures of my, I didn't find any pictures of my paper drafts, so bear with me. I'll jump right into the graphic design. So here's the first draft. As you can see, it's not very good. The colors are correct, but the design just looks weird. The margins here are improper, and everything just feels kind of off. So I tried to fix this. I tried to make it more dynamic, adding the background, changing the colors, but I feel like I made it even worse. It looks very cluttered right now. And through more feedback, it became slightly less cluttered. It's more clean out, but something just still feels off. It feels like it's missing something, or it's just too crowded. Too many things are going on. Too many layers. So, and then I moved on to this. I reordered everything. I used new graphics, and this looks a lot better. By the way, it's in black and white because I like to make my designs in black and white first and then put in the colors later in order for to get the values correct first. So yeah, I thought that was okay. I put in the colors and I thought this is an okay design. I sent it to a bunch of people and they gave me feedback. They didn't like the background since it didn't contrast too much with the foreground. So we added in this this more dynamic background. It's also darker, so the foreground can be seen better. And I think this is pretty interesting, actually. So I sent it to more people, and then they pointed out that the spacing between the 10 a.m. and the 12 p.m. there should be a space in between, as you can see. So yeah, I made that little change and took out the circle, and yeah, this is the final product. And yeah, once everything is, the final product, the final step would be to deliver. Once you get approval from the Director of Marketing and or the VP of Operations, you can send in your final design to whoever requested it, and then pat yourself on the back. It's been a long process. And finally, the recap. So I split this into 3 sections. This is the most important, so pay attention here. The 3 sections are what you would give to the person who requested the design, what you would work together on, and what you would get from them. So you would give paper sketches, digital drafts, some draft revisions, and the final draft on time. And you'd work together with them to work out a schedule, some milestones, deadlines, and like when are these deadlines due, as well as a must, should, or can list. And what you would get is information and feedback. And make sure that you get feedback from different people, as design is for the audience, so get feedback from the audience. So thank you for listening, and let the officers know if you have any other questions.